warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, Tuesday, 22nd of March 2022, we are delighted to welcome all of the participants to the 10th Stations of Asian Community and Sustainable Tourism Challenge for Tourism. This event is held by Setiap Hari Pari Bandung in cooperation with Eurasia. I'd like to welcome our distinguished guest, the head of Institute of Tourism Economics, Setiap Hari Pari Bandung, Professor Dr. Nok Mariani MS. Daryl S.P. Cornell, PhD, CGSP, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, as the speaker of this event. The lecturers of the Setiap Hari Pari, the committees of this event, all delegates from the university, researchers, students, ladies and gentlemen. It is with a great honor for me, Septi Indrianti, to serve as the Master of Ceremony as well as the moderator for this event. Today is the 10th sessions of the 16th meeting international short course attended by Setiap Hari Pari Bandung from Tourism Management Program on the 2nd and the 4th semester. And the output of this event is field research for students and the lecturers regarding to the sustainable tourism. All best participants, let's begin our agenda this morning by saying Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Praying that this event will run smoothly and all the participants will get the best insight and fruitful session. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, next, we will have the opening remark from the head of Setiap Hari Pari Bandung, Professor Dr. Nok Mariani MS. Time is yours.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The honorable lecturer and all the participants in the event of International Short Course Eurasia Community and Tourism Sustainable Development with the 10 challenges for tourism. Thank you for attending our event, and I wish we are healthy. I would like to appreciate my gratitude to our speaker from Philippines, Daryl S. Cornell, PhD. Thank you for spending your time to share your experience through participant in this event. This event is a collaboration between Setiap Hari Pari Bandung and Eurasia, Japan. It was been started since February to April 2022. Today is 10th session and the 16th session we have planned. Sustainable tourism is a challenge because it is one of series the word commitment in realizing a sustainable tourism development program. Tourism is an industry without pollution, must be active to participate in preserve in environmental and the same time is a mean of cognitive environment. In the previous session, we have discussed sustainable tourism to perception in philosophy and praxis, importance of cultural preservation, destination management, potential disaster at the destination, and sport tourism as in from various agility from based on local culture. Geographic information system as a tool to assess the potential of sustainable tourism. All the terms presented from various lectures from university in Indonesia like Teknologi Institute Bandung, Gajah Mada University, Pajajaran University, Education University, Patimura University, and also Setiap Hari Pari Bandung. The speaker from the next session will be present from another countries. At the first is from Philippines, and I will to be continued by Malaysia, Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, and Turkey. Therefore, once again, I would like thank you for your participation, and I do hope that the collaboration will be continued after program. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for the opening remark, Prof. And honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to have the presentation from Daryl S.P. Cornell, PhD, CGSP from Polytechnic University of the Philippines. The topic is sustainable tourism in the Philippines. In this occasion, he will deliver the presentation in English, and it will take about 50 minutes presentation and 20 minutes question and answer. Before we start the presentation, let's me read the biodata of Mr. S.P. Cornell PhD, CGSP is the graduate of Institute of Graduate Studies, San Sebastian, International Hospitality Management. He has been adjunct professor in several universities across the Philippines and Malaysia. Numerous research related to tourism, including published several textbooks and Scopus Journal Index Q3 and Q4. Dr. Cornell has some prestigious certifications, such as Certified Guest Service Professional. Wow, you have lots of certifications and also achievement, Mr. Cornell. And without further ado, let's us listen to the presentation.
Okay, so thank you so much for the nice introduction. So today I am tasked to deliver a speech regarding sustainable tourism in the Philippines. So let me now share my screen. Okay, so my discussion is entitled PH, or Philippine Rest Tourism, Beyond Sustainability Regenerative Tourism. So here today I'm representing my institution, the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, as the chief for the Center for Research, Dissemination and Linkages of the Research Management Office of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. I am also representing PARTH, the Philippine Association of Researchers for Tourism and Hospitality, and our organization with Tings and Dr. Hirams, the Southeast Asian Research Academy. Okay, so let me start my presentation. So let's start off first with the concept of sustainable tourism. Since we are into these things, sustainable tourism was not a new concept. It was conceptualized by the Brundtland Commission's Tourism in Canada when they mentioned a tourism development that leads to management of all resources in such a way that economic, social, and aesthetic needs can be fulfilled while maintaining cultural integrity, essential ecological processes, and biological diversity and life support systems. In short, when we talk about sustainable tourism, what we are actually doing right now is that we are enjoying all these resources that we have while not compensating the resources of the future. And with this, we are following the 17 Sustainable Development Goals led by the United Nations, so as to contribute on how we will be able to pave the way for a brighter future for our stakeholders as well. The Philippines basically is one of the ASEAN member states. Okay. And to share with you some of the profile of my country. So the capital is where I'm in right now, in Manila, which this is actually increasing. This is not yet updated. The population is around 103 million, an area of 300,000 square kilometers. The major languages that we speak is Filipino and English, and the major religion is Christianity. While the life expectancy is 66 years for men and 73 years for women. The Philippine currency is still in Philippine peso, and that is why, but of course, we utilize dollars as well. But for the locals, it's yes, it's Philippine peso. To show the geographical area of the Philippines, of course, naturally, we are filled with a lot of land area. But of course, we are an archipelago, so we are filled with water formations as well, and we are very much filled with a lot of flora and fauna. So we are composed of 100 plus islands, 17 regions, and 79 provinces. So you could just imagine how similar to Indonesia, because we are very much composed of islands. You could just imagine how uh, the tourism is actually managed, and how will we be developing different attractions and make it more sustainable in the country's perspective. So, for sustainable tourism, we are still anchored with the three core elements for sustainable development, where we are eyeing for people, profit, and planet. This is still the basis, the 3PL or the triple bottom line. Although we right now have the five entities, or the five P's for sustainable development, we would still be trying to take an eye, a good eye, on how we'll be able to do this sustainably. And naturally, mixing the three concepts, we would be entrusting our processes into something that would be equitable, something that would be viable, and that would be bearable for all the stakeholders. In the experience of the Filipino people, we really have to contextualize what sustainable tourism would be in the experience of a common Filipino. And that is why we have also translated the 17 Sustainable Development Goals into Filipino, so that it can reach the masses, and how they would advocate also sustainable tourism in their areas. Trying to mix that up as well with the different trends and upcoming advancements that is brought about by technology. Okay, right now we are in the fourth industrial revolution, going on the fifth, and that we know that we are living in a VUCAD world. Okay, so volatile, it's somehow volatile, it's uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Add to up the concept of diversity, okay, which is also very much acknowledged right now in the different settings. With the Department of Tourism, the Philippines Department of Tourism's initiative, we really have taken into consideration stakeholder management as part of our strategies on how we will be able to uplift sustainable tourism in the area. The focus now here would be naturally, um, of course, we would have different directions and different strategies for the different stakeholders that we have. But what we are focusing as of the moment would be the enabling links, okay, where this is actually empowered, okay, to the different implementers and the agencies that we have. So, what the Department of Tourism did was to collaborate with the Association of Tourism Officers of the Philippines, or ATOP, to promote the practices, the sustainable practices, as it is implemented in the provinces and the tourist destinations here in the Philippines. So the rationale of this is to set the bar higher in promoting sustainability in tourism by carrying out tourism activities while restoring ecological balance in the place. This should be aligned with the global goals to redefine travel and tourism post-COVID while addressing resiliency concerns. Another would be advocating and promoting tourism products and destinations that foster environmental preservation and protection and support regeneration. And some of the activities here would involve redefining the accreditation standards that we had set forth for the different tourism destinations. These are some of the examples that we have, that of the destinations in the north and central Philippines. And third is to strengthen the destination stewardship and enhancing the overall quality of physical, social, and spiritual life of our living spaces, empowering the communities and trying to give a better premium to them because they are the actual stewards of these resources that we have. So naturally, we checked the Department of Tourism and the ATOP checked the legal basis for this, and we have another arm in the Department of Tourism, the Tourism Promotions Board, where there is a fund that is allocated also for this one. So the unallocated portion of the fund shall be earmarked by the Tourism Promotions Board as follows: for the department to enhance its program for development, planning, heritage preservation, and infrastructure development, and manpower training as well, including but not limited to scholarships for trainings abroad, among others, and for such other purposes that may contribute to the development of the tourism industry. So, for some indicative strategies that we had for sustainable tourism, we have identified a few. So, first would be the community based collaboration. So, of course, here sustaining our community based tourism initiatives to maintain collaboration with our communities as well. By involving our communities, we are more geared towards sustainable operations of these tourism destinations. By utilizing the convergent approach, developing strategic and interdisciplinary alliances across various levels of implementation. So we have non-government agencies, regional offices, local government units, private sector associations, and PCCIs. Then we also have capacity building activities. This has been deployed a lot during the time that we were unable to resume operations. So the Department of Tourism allocated a lot of fund and priorities into capacitating the tourism work pool. Okay, and by doing such, we are now actually ready for opening right now the domestic borders. But soon enough, I think if the protocols would actually easen up, then naturally we could also involve that of the international borders. Okay, and then of course, reviving volunteerism, strengthening volunteerism among stakeholders and tourists. We have employed a lot of activities that would involve the participation and the co-creation of a service as it is implemented in the tourism destination. So really, the tourists have a role to play in having these activities done and participated also by other stakeholders. Tourism development, as it is defined by the projects, the circuits that we had. So we are actually right now in the process of developing new circuits that we could offer to our tourists later. I'll be showing you an update on the circuits. And then the TRCRG, or the Tourism Regulation, Coordination, and Resource Generation, by redefining accreditation parameters, criteria, and indicators. We understand that because we had the COVID 19 as one of our determining factors, we really need to revise the accreditation parameters, the criteria, and indicators so as to further develop and set appropriate limits, okay, to our tourists and naturally the operators as well. And the annual or biennial awards, the Rest Tourism Award, this was actually in consonance with the other government agencies' goal as well, which we would be showing off later. So here are some of the other convergent points or convergence points that we have indicated. The Tourism Promotion Board's members regular tree planting and tree nurturing activities as it is shown in the picture on the left. cultivating learning communities, mentorship, and best practice sharing. So later I'll show you some of this. The grants on rest tourism. So if there are projects that would support rest tourism, then the department is also giving off away different grants as funding agency, and also forming the SCORE or the Stewardship Councils for Outdoor Restoration Engagements. So it is also part of the trust and priority. So as mentioned earlier, the convergence point between the different departments would start off has started off already with the participation of from the Department of Tourism to the Department of Interior and Local Government. So here we are really involving our local government units by aside from rest tourism, they are also awarding the Seal of Good Local Governance. Okay, and the seal of good housekeeping for the local governments who could actually participate and join, okay, the advocacy and the programs that is jointly formed by the DILG and the Department of Tourism. So here are some good practices that they have presented, they have shared. Okay, so we start off with one of the provinces in the central Philippines, Park Samar. So this is a collaboration between the local government of Samar. Okay, so apart from promoting tourism sites such as the Sokoton Cave and the Lara, a project between Spark Samar and the artisan weavers, so they are actually doing a lot of mats, or we call it locally as banig, of the Basay town. So as a pool of creative consultant, Summer is also a home to these 2,000 artisan banig weavers. So basically, the community has actually transformed and also contributing to the tourism activities of the place because of the creative industries that are involved. Um, our famous Tibolis, who are also um, uh, known for their weaving as well for the different garments that we have. So the activities are actually a collaboration between the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, the Department of Tourism, the PAMB, or the Board for Agriculture and Environment, and the Ecocultural Tourism Destination. So they really have involved and gave more premium to the people who are indigenous or the tribal masters. So one of the evidences to this was that when their datu or their tribal leader became the present mayor, okay, or the LGU leader for this tribe. Down south, we also have the Compostela Valley, where they are also living up and preserving their heritage, the School of Living Traditions. So this is actually a project also of the DILG and the Department of Tourism, where they are actually registering the cultural or the heritage reaches, okay, and have that taught also to the and shared with the stakeholders, with the tourists. But more than that would be to also educate the youth, okay, of the place so that they could actually relive, okay, and preserve the living traditions of the place. For Compostela Valley, it's their Luyot festival, wherein they're actually sharing their riches through the food that they enjoy, okay, on bamboos, and having that as a delicacy. Okay, and okay, still down south, we have the city of Tagum, okay, where they have this catchphrase Tagum Tagumpay, Tagumpay meaning victory. Okay, so let's watch a bit on how they're actually doing their preservation for culture and the arts. Okay, so as we have seen how the Tagum City has really given premium on their history, culture, and the arts. So right now, they really have compiled it in a book. They did a cultural mapping, and they come up with the historical book of the city, so that it could be passed on also to their next generation. So similarly, we also have an example from the Visayan area with their catchphrase "Capture Capis." This is an area in the Philippines where a lot of stories about mythological creatures in the Philippines are said to be found, but they're actually going away with that and transforming it into something that would, of course, contribute to the culture of the place. So, what are the next steps after we have already established this? Of course, we would be setting up organizational interagency structures or mechanisms to support the initiatives that has already been done, establishing timelines and earmarking funding supports, building alliances and identifying the sites and community partners, and launching the program, which would be held next month, the WTTC Summit, to support this again these initiatives. So to cap off my presentation, again is another video regarding how we are doing tourism here in the Philippines by converting sustainable tourism into an inclusive tourism. Through that's our way to restore tourism in the Philippines.
Sa pag-unlad ng turismo, umangat ang Pilipino. Mga may bahay, nagkahanap buhay. Tagahugas ng pinggan, naglakbay sa karagatan. Isang engineer na paunlad ang sining ng buong barangay. At ang simpleng magsasagwan, malaki ang tulong sa kalikasan. Silang walang tinig, boses na ng kasaysayan. At ang specialty ni nanay, ngayoy pinipilahan. Ang best friend ng lahat, naging tour guide na. At ang daan-taong apo, naibida ang kulturang Pilipino. Lunti ang ilog, naging entablado. At katutubong sayaw, napainta ang buong mundo. Ipagdiwang ang isang dekada ng Tourism Act. Kabuhayan sa turismo, pinauunlad ang bawat Pilipino.
Thank you so much. I hope that small skit that I have prepared for everyone could suffice in showing off what sustainable tourism is in the Philippines.
Okay, thank you very much for the interesting and inspiring presentations. The next agenda is the question and answer sessions. We would like to invite participants to ask some questions to speakers related to the sustainable tourism in the Philippines. And the session will be divided into two sections. The first sessions will be for 3 questions, and the speakers will answer the questions one by one. And don't forget to mention your name and your program, or you may write down the questions on the chat box. Okay, we have the questions from Gracella. Oh, Miss Cornell cannot hear my voice. How about right now? Can you hear my voice, Mr. Cornell? Mr. Cornell? We move on into the question and answer session. How about the other participants? Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, I can hear your voice, Ibu Sakti.
Okay, how about you, Mr. Cornell? Can you hear my voice?
Sorry, right now I can hear it. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Please
you very much.
continue, Ibu Sakti.
Yes. The next agenda is the question and answer session, Mr. Cornell. And we would like to invite the participant to ask the questions to your materials. And then we have some questions from the participants here. The first questions come from Gracella Audi. He is from Tourism Management in the 6th semester. The question is, what did the Philippines government or the local people or Boracay Island do when the island was hit by a waste epidemic? The government at that time closed the island, and how the impact on tourism there? As I know, Boracay Island is very beautiful. Okay, you may answer the first questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, this is I think the news was actually, it travels fast, no? And yes, it's one of our pride here in the Philippines to have Boracay. It's actually Boracay, Boracay. It's in the central Philippines, and we are very proud of it because of the white sand. Over the years, Boracay has been a very much full of controversies because of the issues that was given to them. Like as it is mentioned in the question, a lot of wastes are actually thrown at it, and because it's a prime destination spot the concept of mass tourism or over tourism also hit the spot. But I think it's way back in 2018 where the national government took a toll already on this beach destination. So what they did was to close it for 6 months, okay, and try to build a lot of rehabilitation with Boracay. Also, with the pandemic that we had right now, I think it's not only Boracay, but most of the destinations here in the Philippines took some time to rest. Okay, and right now, it's slowly opening with a lot of protocols that is also implemented. So right now, it seems that we are starting anew because we are slowly accepting tourists, but at the same time, we do not want to put all our efforts to waste. So we are also monitoring capacity, the carrying capacity of the place right now. It's strictly implemented as of the moment. And I think that's how Boracay Island right now is sustaining its beauty and its appeal to our tourists.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. But before we move on into the second questions, Mr. Correa, I'm sorry because I cannot hear your voice clearly. I think that the sound around you is a little bit
Okay.
noisy.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and for the second question is from Mr. Rustam, Opa Rustam Sumarna. He is also studying in tourism management, and his question is, what is your thought on how active should the government's role be in building a sustainable tourism? If so, how about the Philippines government? What's their effort or regulation in tourism?
Okay. Um, right now, I think the Department of Tourism in the Philippines is what they're actually doing right now is to empower the local government units and try to look for ways on how they're actually going back to the normal operations. As mentioned earlier in the talk, the Department of Tourism tried to alleviate the present status of the tourism stakeholders during the time that the pandemic really hit us bad. So what they did was to set off a lot of training and webinars to capacitate the different tourism stakeholders so that while they are not able to do their operations, they're actually studying, they're actually doing a lot of capacity developments and infrastructure developments. Aside from that, they also gave, I think, a lot of fund so that our tourism stakeholders can also gain their startup kits, okay, and open the destinations properly. And then right after, when we are actually easing up the protocols and we are opening the tourism activities slowly, what we did was to enact a lot of memoranda for the tourism operators so that they could really strictly follow the protocols while slowly opening up their operations. That's the role of the national agency, okay, on how they are actually regulating the operations in the destinations. But the local government units also played a lot when promoting the different destinations and how their operations were actually be governed by ensuring that the protocols are actually followed and by promoting a lot of concepts. During the time that we were starting tourism here slowly, we were introduced to the concept of tourism bubbles or the tourism circuits that we have developed. So, sorry, I failed to share that one. Let me share it again. Um, so, these are some of the Before the pandemic, we actually had 70 developed circuits in the Philippines, okay, where we are focusing a lot of our tourism activities. But right now, after we have assessed the impact of the pandemic in the Philippines, we still develop circuits, tourism circuits here in the Philippines, but we only limited it to 49 because of some of the restrictions that we need to follow. So because of that, we are still promoting tourism, but we are really trying our best to also follow the protocol so that we do not contribute to the problem that we have at hand because of the pandemic. So the tourism circuits are actually focusing on this concept. So we have diving and marine sports. We have food and gastronomy tourism. We have a lot of this during the time that we were in the when the pandemic hit us bad. We also have medical travel and wellness tourism as people are now going into revenge travel, so they're focusing on medical and wellness. We have a lot of education tourism and volunteerism initiatives as well. Cultural tourism is always there, and cruise and nautical tourism as we slowly open our borders. And of course this will not hit a miss nature-based tourism, as we missed a lot on how we could actually enjoy nature. Plus farm tourism, as we are also advocate food. Our present minister for the Department of Tourism was the undersecretary before of our Department of Agriculture, so this is always on her prime spot. Okay, so I think that's it.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. And from this chat, I can see that Grisela said that Bokorai Island is like Bali Island, and she is interested to visit Philippines. Okay, for the third question. For the third question is from Widya Putra. Hello, good morning, Mr. Daryl. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to introduce myself, okay ya? Kita langsung masuk ke pertanyaan. We know that Thailand, Singapore, and Malaysia is very famous to us, Indonesia people, especially for me. So the question is, can you tell us what is the most interesting tourism in Philippines for your perspective?
Okay, there are a lot actually, but some are because we're both archipelagos, Indonesia
Okay,
and the
Mr. Daryl?
Philippines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What is the
can
most
you?
interesting tourism in Philippines?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay,
I can hear you.
so as mentioned, because we're both archipelagos, we have a lot in common. Like as you mentioned, Bali is similar to Boracay, and we have similar concepts as well. We don't only have Boracay, we also have Palawan for the beach concepts. We also have a lot of surfing destinations here. And as you can see earlier, the tourism circuits and the concepts of tourism was actually highlighted in such a way that we will actually balance off the different priorities. But for me personally, with the places that I've visited, one of the best that's attracted to me and my taste would be in the northernmost part of the Philippines, which is Batanes. Okay, because the views there are actually breathtaking. Okay, it's a small island in the northernmost part of the Philippines, and they're actually giving a lot of premium to the heritage that they have. They don't allow people to actually acquire land if it's not part of the indigenous people. So they really have that sense of ownership and a very cordial manner to all people, even tourists. They have this practice of we call it in the Filipino mano. So what they do is to approach you and do this, tap their hands to your head as a sign of respect if you're an elderly. person or older than the young one. So the guests or the residents there are very much welcoming to tourists. So I think this is something that I could be very proud of.
Okay. Ms. Adele, we have still one question. It is actually the question from Mr. Rustam. The last question.
I think Ibu Septi has a problem with the internet. Maybe Dr. Daryl can see also the last question.
Yeah, I think
Yes, okay, you can answer directly.
if I saw it right, I think Rustam is asking about certain cases when Davao City had a martial law, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. It's actually a bit controversial on that manner since the Davaoenos, we call them Davaoenos, are actually accustomed to the type of a governance our present president is having because he was once the mayor of that area. And so the Vaveños don't have any problem. They don't have any problem with how it's actually governed during the time, and they have already adapted to the kind of leadership. And they say, I'm not a Davaoeño. I'm hail from Manila, but as a lot of residents say in the place, it's relatively peaceful there. It's relatively peaceful there. They're welcoming to tourists. That area that I showed you earlier, Tagum, is part of the Davao area. Okay, so basically, I don't think martial law is actually implemented there, but the rules that they have or the governance measures that they have done was already accustomed to all the people there. Actually, Davao is one of the prime cities in the south. Okay, and I don't see any problem with them accepting tourists even before the pandemic.
Thank you very much for the answer. We move into the next session of the discussion, and then the three questions. I would like invite to the participants or the students to be brave to open your mic, and then you can say it on directly to the speakers. Okay. Okay. While we're waiting, the students to prepare the questions to you, Mr. Cornell. Also, I would like to read the questions from Pratiwi Pribadi. Pratiwi is the fourth semester in tourism management program. And the question is, what are the biggest challenges for sustainable tourism in the Philippines? In addition to the
Okay. So, one of the things I think, of course, as I mentioned earlier, partly the COVID-19 pandemic has been a good thing for the nature-based areas here in the Philippines because they really had a breather. We noticed that a lot of birds are coming to the cities already because during the time that we were on lockdown, a lot of people were inside their houses. So all the flora and fauna actually had a breather because no one's visiting them, and then they flourished a lot. Okay, the beaches were really serene when we tried to assess it, when we had an inventory of our natural resources. So it's good. But one of the things that we pose as an issue is because of the chemicals, for example, that we utilized during to of course to apprehend the effects of the pandemic. So one of the questions that will always come up as a question to during the time that we have webinars would be how is sustainable tourism addressed, where in fact we are utilizing a lot of single-use items. So, for example, we have our face masks. For example, they're all disposable. How is actually waste management being done, and how is it affecting our natural resources, especially those that are utilized for tourism purposes? So I think that's one of the challenges that we had, but basically they have already reformed a lot of these materials into something that they could reuse, recycle, okay, and reduce in their operations. So basically, because a lot of people were aiming to go to travel, as we slowly open, we mix the concepts together. We allow the travelers or the tourists to go to the different places, but ensuring that they are both practicing responsible tourism and at the same time following the different protocols allotted by the government.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. Now I would like to invite the participants. So please, you can prepare the questions and then you can ask directly to the speaker. There's also the response from Mr. Rustam. Thank you very much, Mr. The Davao City.
Halo Ibu Septi.
Bisa diambil alih Pak Bu Titing.
Okay, Dr. Dery, while we're waiting for the other question, I have a question for our discussion actually. As we know that, what is it? We can say that sustainable tourism is a global issue, right? Okay, like Pratiwi asked about the question, what is the challenges for Philippines? I would like to know, okay, how far the government of Philippines making priority to wake up the tourism sectors after pandemic 19? Is there any?
Yeah, I think that the first thing that the national government did was to lay down the new set of guidelines for opening the tourism industry. So they really had this memo. Of course, as I mentioned before, no, during the time that no one is allowed out. What they did was to capacitate the stakeholders by doing a lot of webinars, seminars online, freely given to the tourism stakeholders, so they have that re-educating, okay, the stakeholders. But after that, when we were starting opening up the borders, okay, what the first thing that the government and the Department of Tourism did was to lay down the guidelines on how to open. For example, if for example you are on, or the city where you are in is on a level 2 status, then you will have this number of guests capacity to be accepted within your premises. Okay, and of course, naturally, there will always be a penalty. For example, if they will not be following, we have one case actually before that a hotel in a prime city here in the National Capital Region uh, allowed these people to come in, and of course there was an investigation that was deployed, so that because we all know that it would be detrimental to our advocacy to of course prevent COVID-19 pandemic from going around and spreading out. So we are very much aggressive in trying to open the different establishments, but of course we are also very much careful in doing that, doing such, so that we can balance both the economic and the health protocols of the country.
Okay, thank you. And one more thing, Dr. Daryl, how about the local community involvement?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
they're also part of the stakeholder training during that time. So while they were affected, so again, the creative industry was put on hold also for a bit. So during that time that they were put on hold while they were also having their education, the ministry or the Department of Tourism also provided a fund, okay, that would be given to these stakeholders so that they could also get their feet moving, okay, and start off during the time that tourism will reopen.
Okay, thank you. So now come back to Ibu Septi. She's already
Okay.
done.
Thank you very much, Ibu Tuting, for your help.
Welcome.
There is technical problem. So, okay, I will continue with the questions. The questions come from Budi. Budi Andriana. Tagum City is the second busiest city in the Davao region. What is the strategy so that tourists can access cheaply and comfortably when visiting this destination?
Oh, of course, naturally, you should you could access this on their website. A lot they are actually trying to ramp up because as you can see earlier, the mayor of Tagum City is very involved in trying to promote the city, okay, and a lot of visitors, tourists to come over. So what they did was right now is they're trying to refurbish their website so that all the things that you need to know about Tagum City would be available there. But aside from that, if we could have someone, for example, a local from Tagum City, they're actually trained to be hospitable as such and accept visitors. Okay, of course, prior to the following of the protocols that was set by that local government.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next is from Sally. He is the sixth semester in tourism management. Her question uh, is there any special way in sustainable tourism in the Philippines compared to other countries?
I would say that, of course, we have a lot of similarities in a way because we are all affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And as I also checked on the United Nations and ILO, International Labour Organization, really the priority is to make sure that everyone is economically viable, okay, because of the effect of the lockdowns and all the protocols, okay. But I think the difference that we would be having in the Philippines should be still anchored in how we are acculturated to the priorities that we have right now in the Philippines. As of the moment, tourism again is slowly opening up. But before we decided to open up our tourism destinations, there were a lot of priorities that was put in the priority list first of the national government, like of course, the health protocols. Okay, we ensure that we are down to level 1 or level 2 before we allow leisure and tourism establishments to open up. Of course, the priority is on the agricultural sector. Make sure that everyone can be fed properly and that safety protocols are also of prime priority so that anyone, of course, safety and security is one of the things that we would want to uh, uh, um, made aware of our residents and also incoming tourists.
Okay, the next question is from First San Joseph. The question is, are there any development differences in sustainable tourism in the Philippines compared to other? Oh, ini sudah ya.
Yeah, I think I answered that as well. because it's similar to Celis
Sally, yes.
question.
Question is similar to Sally. Okay, the students, please trying to open your mic and then ask the questions directly to the speaker.
But maybe besides students, also lecturers also can
Oh, yeah.
having discussions together with Septi.
Okay, so we also have the
Okay.
lecturers here as
Bu
participants.
Septi, may I ask some question?
Okay,
Mr. Daryl?
okay.
Okay, Mr. Daryl. I'm a Taufik, lecturer from Stiparia Pari. May I ask you from some question? It is important to follow the student tourism trend in response to increase customer action as a result of the corona pandemic. However, most pattern have arisen from more general shift in customer behavior. My question is, what tourism trend in Philippines related after COVID-19?
So if I heard it right, you were asking for the tourism trends right now. The after we was hit hard by this pandemic now. Um, I think right now we tried to assess first what are the allowable tourism themes that we could implement here in the Philippines. Now that we are setting up all our areas, but one of the things that was hip during the time that we are in pandemic and is still enjoyed right now were the tourism concepts that I showed you earlier. Primarily gastronomic or food tourism, because during the time that we are in the pandemic, a lot of food trends actually came up. Okay, and this is something that a lot of people, domestic tourists, really enjoyed. Okay, so of course, naturally, those food that were usually enjoyed by the people in the outskirts of the towns and the cities were not present anymore. So what they did was to really put a premium on that. They were endorsed by the Department of Tourism in trade shows in malls, for example. They are very much visible in those areas, so that a lot of people could clamor and go into availing those stuff. But aside from that, the other concepts that were really much favored here in the Philippines are slowly opening up as well. Like, for example, the surfing tourism in Siargao. Of course, they were badly hit by the storm last time, but they're slowly rebuilding because there's a clamor. Of course, because of revenge travel, after we were closed for a long time, a lot of people were really having their hopes up to go into different destinations. Actually, as mentioned earlier, Boracay is now open, and a lot are really trying to get into the protocol so that they could enter Boracay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daryl.
Okay, the other participants, if you still have curiosity about the sustainable tourism in the Philippines, you can ask. Open your mic and then you can ask. If there's no questions, actually, I have a questions to you. I'm interested in when you explain about the cultivating learning communities, and one of the best practice is benchmarking. Can you tell me how the benchmarking give the impact to the sustainable tourism?
Of course, because of benchmarking, we have made a lot of developments. We saw the best practices that were actually implemented in other regions, and that's why we have built up different concepts, different ideas that we are now also applying to our operations. As we have seen it, of course, whatever is applicable to the present state of operations that we have. Okay, and of course, we also need to try to set that up in such a way that it would still be compatible to our usual operations, so that we won't have or we won't affect the usual market that we have for tourism. Then it's good. Okay, it would have a detrimental effect on sustainable tourism, but at the same time, it could have an increasing trend, okay, towards how we would be able to also improve the current state of operations in the tourism industry. So benchmarking is really something that we would take hold of. Me as well. During the time that we are in the pandemic, I would say, that's also one of the reasons how I met Titing and all these friends from the ASEAN countries. When I benchmarked these practices, I mentioned, oh, Zoom is coming up, and in events, this is really happening. Okay, and that's how I gained access to the international community. That is, I think, one of the fruits that I gathered from this one, and also benchmarking it would also improve or help us in developing the priorities and trusts of our tourism industry.
Hello, Bu Septi. Okay, seems that Bu Septi is having problem, Dr. Derry, but we have to understand because the technical problem. Okay, well, we having look the chat from Gracilla again. Dr. Derry, what do you know about tourism in Indonesia? It's a good question. What do you think?
Actually, I know for a fact that Indonesia is also the similarities. I would say like that. I haven't visited Indonesia yet. I would like to go there someday, especially when APAC-3 actually was held, I think last 2018 or 2017.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Pasri, yeah, okay.
yeah, I was hoping to go there, but during that time, I was also committed to another event. I have been hearing a lot of good things about Bali, of course, and how the culture is also given a prime priority. Okay, the weather, the weather I think is a bit similar to the Philippines. It's hotter in summer. Okay, and that of course because of its archipelago scheme, also have a lot of waters, and that it's really diverse, no, when it comes to the characteristics when it comes to culture, and that's something that I would really love and like to visit soon.
Okay, and our university, Iapari, is in Bandung. Bandung is another city in Indonesia. Not only Bali, we have the other cities,
Yeah.
beautiful cities also. So hopefully one day you can visit Bandung.
Yeah, I would definitely hope so. Just like with Dr. Hirams
Yeah,
and
yeah.
visiting different parts of Malaysia, I was also hoping to visit different parts of Indonesia as well.
Yes, okay. Ibu Septi is already joined.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much for the answer, Mr. Cornell. Okay. Is there any questions from the participants? From the lecturers, maybe? Okay, if there is no questions, unfortunately, we have to end up our sessions. Mr. Daryl, thank you very much for your presentation. It's very interesting and inspiring. And we hope that we can visit the Philippines. Okay,
Yes,
but
we will be
before,
very much welcoming you here.
thank you very much. But before we end our sessions, let me sum up the presentation from Mr. Cornell presentations. That sustainable tourism is very important thing in development and in developing tourism sites, and also as a part of the sustainable tourism development goals. And also, it is a challenge, especially in the pandemic periods, to develop the tourism. Okay, Ladies and gentlemen, with gratitude, allow us to present a certificate of appreciation for Mr. Cornell that will be given by the head of Steparia Pari Bandung, Professor Dr. Nok Mariani.
Okay, thank you. Kedengeran ya Bu Sep?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Delir. Great presentation, I think. I would like to give a certificate to appreciation, Mr. Cornell. Once again, thank you very much for your shared knowledge about sustainable tourism development in Philippines. And your participation is steeper this program. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much as well, Dr. Mariani, and of course the rest of Stipar for this wonderful event.
Okay. Thank you. And the next is certificate of appreciation for the moderator that will be given by the head of Steparia Pari Bandung.
Okay, thank you,
very much.
Bu Septi, for your the works is very good in this
Thank you.
program.
And we have how many slides here? Can you stop the screen? The committee? We will have a photo sessions. Would you please turn the camera on, everybody? So we have 4 slides here. Could you turn the camera on? Okay, I will wait for one. Okay. We start from the first slide. On my mark. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the next slide. On my mark. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then the third slide. On my mark. 1, 2.